What is up, everybody? It's that time again, that time of the night where we huddle around the campfire around a cryptid and tell each other ghost stories. Everybody interact with the stream, leave some comments, click like, send some hearts. More hearts equals more people equals more ghost stories. Share the stream with your friends if you have friends who have spooky stories. Send it over to them, tell them to come up. Guest box is open immediately, as usual. Anybody wants to pop on? Thank you all for the likes. Appreciate it. How's everybody doing tonight? Hey, Harry. How you doing? Last night's stream was really good. We did really well. We had a lot of people in here, and we had a lot of great stories yesterday. Really cool. Um, Everybody tap the screen, send some hearts. Guest box is open. That's good to hear, Harry. I hope tonight goes as well, and then we get as many people. Had some really good stories last night. Lots of really good, just ghost stories, you know? Um, okay, cool, Scholar. I am hanging in there like a hair in a biscuit, as they say. You have a paranormal experience? Well, feel free to hop in the box, come up and share your paranormal experience. Let's get this live stream kicked off. A couple of weeks ago. Yes. I don't think she did. I think, let's see, there were two people, and I got them confused later on. One of them said that hers was inoperable, so her alien implant was inoperable. The other one, I don't remember. I think the other one, she said it disappeared on its own. A shapeshifter girlfriend. Hot dog. That sounds interesting. Well, yeah, guest box is open if you guys want to come up and share your stories. Anything spooky, paranormal. Share your scariest. Um, Very cool. We got a person. Oh, thank you.
Sure. I could be a shapeshifter.
I hope not.
I know, right? Be terrible at parties.
Yeah. I don't know. It'd be kind of cool, I think.
You think so?
Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. I haven't thought it through.
I always wondered. I mean, if we'd be able to handle having this supernatural next to just walking with us like regular people.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
it's
like,
an interesting thought for sure.
mm. Oh, by the way, this is Chief. I changed my name.
Yeah, I recognized your profile picture.
Thank you. So, how are you guys doing tonight? See, it's I thought she'd be lined up with people right now. Last time we came in here, there was a
Well,
full hive.
yeah, it just got on, just got started. It always is a little bit slow to
Oh,
start. But as the night goes on, it gets wilder and crazier. So,
oh, I know. I know. By 4 o'clock, we'll knee deep in people. So,
yeah.
I was the other night there's a lot of discussion about a lot of different things, and one of the things that kind of came up was well, I brought up with this young lady who was having problems with having something attached to her. And I thought about that, and I thought about that, and what came to mind is American Gods. Have you ever seen that? Read the book?
Um, I don't think so. I'm familiar with it. It sounds familiar.
Well, it's written by Neil Gaiman, and what it's about is immigrants moving to America, and when they get here, they don't They have no worship here. They don't have no place to live. They got no temples, no nothing here. So what happens is they end up bringing pieces of the gods and stuff to this town, to this place. And then it gets really, it's an interesting book, and it's an interesting thought about how we talk about Western European critters living here in the United States. How did they get here? I mean, what brought them here? We talk about, well, little people have always been here. But then you all start talking about like shapeshifters and some people even bring up, I guess, vampires of a sort. And I was always wondering, I mean, where did we, how did we get there? How did we get there? And like with our people, we don't have that kind of stuff. Our stuff is basically the earth and whatever she brought into this world, you know. And there's always been people who live side by side. You know, I always talk about Sasquatch living next to us. And I was also thinking about all these other people we've seen. Case in point, I'll tell you a story about, I was just a kid. And we were at this, what we call Sun Lodge, where we're from. What a Sun Lodge is what everybody nowadays would be calling a Sundance. Some other tribes would call it Sundance. We call ours the Sun Lodge. And then the only there's a lot of differences. And one of the main ones is the other type of Sundance, they pierce. And when I say pierce, they cut into the skin, and they use bone to put in there, and then they tie ropes to that. And what you do is you dance, and as you're dancing, you pull back on that skin. And so what it is you're proving yourself to the Creator. I offer myself to you. And I was just thinking about that because I've been to a lot of Okon since then, but a lot of times before that, Native Americans weren't allowed to practice their religions in that sense. The Okon or the Sun Lodge had been outlawed for years. And after a long fight, we finally got the right to do our religion again. And so a lot of these people, a lot of us who, I didn't grow up in that particular one because we didn't have it until I got older. But I remember it was a lot. You go there and you have this energy, this power. I mean, you could feel it. It was like, it was just like you could just feel it literally. And it was funny because every day there's something new that has to go towards putting this lodge up. Now this lodge is what it is basically this arbor built of trees. And so every morning you would get up and they'd get ready. They either build that or build sweats or anything of that sort. Well, one morning, and see second to last morning, they get what they call the center pole. And usually it's about 20 feet and maybe about 3 feet in circumference. And the reason being is because it's got to hold the center pole and all these other things that are going to be hung off of it. And so when they did this, people, it's an honor to do this. So you have to get up at a certain time. You have to get up before the sun comes up, not do ye. And you have to start walking. You have to go to find this tree. And when you get there, there's a whole ceremony of taking this tree down. Well, that morning, they'd stayed up late because there's other ceremonies that go until the morning. Well, that one ceremony kept them up until 3 in the morning, and they had to be up by sunup. So this is end of June, so it's sun would come up. Well, I'd say pretty early, about 6. So they had to be up before 6. Well, everybody was still asleep by 5. Then come 5:30, no one was up. No one was getting ready. And all of a sudden, you wake up. We heard it clear as day. Someone's like, "Get up, get up! Ikakimat, hurry up! Get out here! Get ready! Go get that center pole!" Anita get. And they were like, huh? And they looked at the, before the sun started coming up, night to eat. It was just starting to peek over the edge there. And they're like, oh crap. And they're running around, getting ready, and they're heading out. And as they're going over, my dad was telling me that they asked my uncle's son, so, you were up early. How come you didn't wake us up earlier? And my dad and all of them, they said, well, it wasn't me. It wasn't me. They all those men, not one of them knew it was who it was. And you hear what it was is one of those old people, those spirits. They wanted that lodge put up, so they made sure to get them men up. And so it was as a spirit walking through the village and saying, "Get ready." And that's how powerful this Sundance was. This lodge. It was one of the first ones I ever gone to. So we'd gone through the whole ceremony, and the last day we start putting together our camp to go home. And as we were going home, we got home and we start unloading and putting stuff away. My auntie and my uncle come out. See, my uncle had come out to help, but then he came back in because he was a cop with the BIA. He come in and they were sitting there, and my Aunt Doris kind of had a concerned look on her face. And we were all kind of like, we didn't, we just didn't really bother with it until finally she sat down after we all got done and she talked to my grandpa. And she's telling him, hey, there was something here. Something was coming to our door. I don't know what it was, but it had all these dogs frightened. And she said what happened is she could hear it. There's this lake. It's called Dead Dog Lake. And where that lake is, it's a big one. And as they were sitting there, she said she could hear those dogs. Whatever it was as they were going down that street. They didn't hear it was they didn't see anything though. They just heard it. Heard the dogs screaming and barking and whatnot. As she said that was happening, it finally come to our driveway. And she didn't think nothing of it. And then as she said that, after she said that it wasn't bothered her, she got to the door, and then she heard my dog, Grizz. He started growling. And he started fighting. I mean, it was just like whatever it was, he wasn't gonna let in the house. And he was protecting his house. And she said she went out, she was gonna go out and help, but she looked out. She didn't see nothing except Grizz. And whatever it was that was fighting him was invisible. My dog, he fought it off, he sent it off. But he looked like he'd been caught in a fight with some other dog. And so what we figured is that someone was trying to hurt us. Because this Olcon was one of the first things to help us get rid of the bad luck in our family. Because remember, he was telling you the stories about all this medicine that's been used against us? Well, sometimes you can't always get rid of it all at once. And so what happens, that's why they went there. This Olcon to help. But somebody was looking to hurt us. And they sent that spirit to kill us. And that's our life. They talk about, they don't think about it as like, just something that just happens randomly, because our Native American people are soaked in the supernatural. And it's so soaked that we just don't even, it's not even supernatural anymore. It's just normal life. And so, like we were talking, I listened to the stories that some of my other people from other reservations. And one of the ones that like a lot of people, like I hear and I watch you guys. And one of the ones that gets me is that some people use sipistu. Sipistu is what we call is the owl. Now, the owl in our world, he's a messenger. But he's a messenger of doom. Whenever he comes, he brings bad luck. Whenever we see him, we say, oh, poop. So we grab some sweet grass or whatever we have, and we say, we light it, and we tell them, take it back. We don't want it. We don't want your bad news. Take it back. And so that owl, as he comes, and if you see him, he's bringing something bad. And I got a story for that one, because my best friend, we were growing up. We were sitting there one night, and we were just sitting there have a couple of beers and just chilling. And he started talking about his one auntie. And she was what she, in a family, there's always that one person that everybody loves, that everybody cares about, that no matter what. And then she was that person. She has friends with everybody, and then she got along with all her family. And so she was a special woman. And my brother, I call him my brother, he started sitting down, and we were just, like I said, we were just having a beer too, and all of a sudden he says, Dave, and that's my other name. Dave, let me tell you about something. He says, I heard an owl before my auntie died. And the story goes, as he was sitting there one night, he was just a little guy. He was laying in bed, and he was visiting. You know how kids are. They can't sleep. They sit there and they visit. And he was visiting his brothers and stuff, and all of a sudden got a knock on the door. He looked out, and it was his auntie. And he says, "What are you doing?" She told him, "Go to bed, you guys." And so they kind of looked. You know how kids are. They act like they went to bed. And they were laying there, and all of a sudden they heard that sip of stew start singing. And he started hooting. And as he was singing, they all kind of stopped. And they were like, "Whoa, oh," because even as a child, you learn that sip of stew is bad. And he was sitting there, and he's like, "Uh-oh, wonder what's wrong." And he said, as he said that, he felt like something was going on with his auntie. He couldn't put his finger on it, but he started worrying about her. And that sip of stew, finally disappeared, left. And when he left, everybody no one knew about it all. He just happened to hear it because he was sitting next to the window sleeping. And as that sip of stew heads out, there's a knock on the door. A knock on the door, and his mom answers that door. And here it is. It's the police. And what's going on is they say there was an accident. And his mom, and they said, your sister passed on. They got in a car wreck and she died. And so what it was that sip of stew was bringing the news about somebody's death. And that was his auntie, and that she was kind of the heart of the family. And so when she left, a lot of them lost their way in life. But sip of stew is a powerful, powerful bird. And so what he does is he's a messenger. And it's not good news every time he comes. And I see you guys, you worship him. Some of you guys worship him. And I don't mind, that's your way. But for us, sip of stew is a very, very, it's scary. It's scary when you see him. We could be driving down the roads going 100 miles an hour at night. The minute you see a sip of stew, we'll stop right in the middle of the road and we'll break out our tobacco or whatever we're going to smudge with. We like that smudge, and we tell them we don't want it. Take it with you. Because every time I've seen a sip of stew, something bad has happened in my family. So it's like, it's just the way our people are, nowadays. They call people like us who talk about this stuff, they call us kooks. They call us crazy. They call us, they almost like we're stupid because we believe and see this stuff. Some people see this stuff. And, we just don't look at it anymore like we used to. Remember the other night I was telling you about how science is becoming the main thought in the world. But not everything can
Yeah.
be solved by science. There's stuff that goes on out there that we still don't know. And so this, when they talk about Sipistu, when they talk about that stuff, they teach. We were taught this stuff as children. It was a way of life for us. And so now growing up without my grandpa been gone for a few years. He's the one that kind of taught me this stuff, and we learned how to defend against these things. Um, there's what we call shooting medicine. What happens when you go, like, say, somebody so competitive, it's like having steroids, it gives you that advantage. So what this is this medicine, whatever it is, whatever they get or whatever they use it for bad. They make it this other person to weaken them, to kill them, to hurt them. And so when you go to a powwow, if you go to a powwow and you see people with mirrors on their costume, it's to protect them from that. Because when they throw that it's a curse, basically, is what we would call it. They throw that curse, it goes back on them. It doesn't touch them because those curses are scary. I mean, they could tear your whole family apart. They could tear you apart. You could end up sick, so sick that you won't be able to do anything. And that's jealousy and hate and greed from humans. And so they use that medicine for bad instead of good. And one time my dad was telling me this story, and what happened is him and his niece, they were across the mountains from where we live, playing hand game. Now, hand games like guess I don't know if you ever hear that from any of the natives in here, but it's a guessing game. And what it is a guessing game, and we gamble on it, and whoever wins the money. So my dad and my grandpa and his niece, they were all playing this team over across the mountains, and they start beating them, and they just kept beating them and beating them and beating them and taking their money. And they were doing really good. By the time they were done, they'd amassed a good amount of money. And so they said, well, they'll play till daytime. So they'll start at like a certain time at night, and they'll go all night until that morning. So this was the last game of the night. And so, the day, I guess. And they were getting ready, and they start playing. And my dad said he was playing, and he was going to point. When they say shoot, they mean they're going to point wherever the marker. There's markers. They're called bones, and you have to find a certain bone. And he shot, and he said as he shot, it felt like somebody grabbed his hand and turned it away from that way he was supposed to go. He said no matter what he did, it was like it was moving his hand. And then all of a sudden they got sick. Him and my cousin, my auntie, my cousin, his niece, and they said whatever it was, it just sickened them. They felt like somebody took all their energy, just sucked it out of them. And so after they got done doing that, after that happened, they had lost all that money they had, got taken back. And so they got up and they went outside and they were drinking coffee. And then that my dad asked her, "Did you feel something?" And then she said, "Yeah." And so what had happened? Somebody was so jealous, they shot medicine to my dad and my cousin. And so over the years, my dad I don't know if he ever got it removed, but after he got it, his life was pretty hard for him. One of the things that I remember before he got murdered, he talked about there was right where they say that medicine hit him. It was in the neck, and he said it always bothered him. So he'd go up to the hospital and have them check it all the time. They tell him, "Mr. Many Eyes, there's nothing in there." And so it just kept bothering him. And I don't know if he ever decided to go see a medicine man to get cleaned up, but it just kept bothering him. And finally, just before he died, one day, me and him were sitting there in the living room, and we just got done having a fight. I was sitting there, and my dad, he's kind of looking at me. He says, "Kid," he always said that to me. "Hey, kid, I got to tell you something." And I thought, this is my dad. If you have a good dad, nothing can take him from you. So I was like, "Oh, okay. What's going on, Dad?" And he says, "Kid, I got cancer." And what it was is that cancer was in his neck where they shot that medicine. So he had cancer, and he said, once he found that out, he told me, he says, "Kid, I'm not gonna fight it. I'm not gonna fight this cancer. I'm gonna let it take me." And that was one of the biggest moments in my life to hear that. But that medicine was so powerful and so strong, it gave my dad cancer.
Wow, that's really sad. I hate that. I'm sorry.
No, it's perfectly understandable. It was that year? That was the year that he lost his life to his best friend too. So yeah, there's just I got a story about that. I got all kinds of story. I'll tell you one more before I get off. So I grew up on the reservation in Browning, Blackfeet. And they call us Blackfeet because when they first seen us, our moccasins were black underneath. And what we would do is we'd light the prairies on fire so we'd make better grass for the animals. And then hence we get bigger, better buffalo and whatnot coming through. And so that's what they call us, the Blackfeet. And while they were doing that, what they said that, well, that's the Blackfeet way. And so what was going on is my dad and a lot of the people that in my life before colonization, our attachment, our closeness to the Creator and all these holy people was there. They talk about talking to animals and stuff. Well, that's how our people were. We talked to these animals and these people, and they would visit us. And so one of the things about them is sometimes if they pitied us, they'd give us medicine to cure, to heal. And how it goes is when they would walk up to you and say, okay, napi, sanadapi. Remember, what does that mean? Remember we talked about this. Okay, napi, sanadapi.
I think, what did it mean? I don't know. I can't remember. I remember the first one you told me was "see you later."
It was hello, how are you? So after he said that whatever it is, it'll give you medicine. And a lot of times it's to protect. Always to protect, to heal. And so it's this medicine, and my dad was blessed. He was blessed by the spirits. His Indian name was given to him by spirits. But one day he was sitting there and he was sitting with my auntie, and they were just kind of having a beer and just kind of having fun. All of a sudden, my dad just went blank, like he wasn't there. And as he went blank, they were all kind of like, "Well, what's going on?" My dad said, he said he don't even remember, but my auntie told him, like, when he went blank, it was like there was another voice coming out of him. And they were like, "Oh, geez, what's going on here?" And so he started talking, and he started making prophecy. He made prophecies. He made 2 or 3 of them. And every one of them was a tragedy. The first one was about my cousin who got in a car wreck. And he said, one of our close cousins is going to die that way. I can't remember the third one. The third one was pretty tragic too. But the second one was he predicted and seen his own death. He says, when I die, it'll be from violence. And it'll be from my friend. And so my auntie looked at him and was like, what the hell are you talking about? And he comes to, and all of a sudden that light, the dullness of his eyes left, and he had that light again. And they tell him, Levi, you all right? That was my dad's name, Levi. And he looked at him, he's like, yeah, what's going on? And he grabs his beer, takes a drink, and yeah, well, something happened to you. You disappeared. And so that was my dad. He had he had medicine. He was blessed, but that was a curse. That one was seeing the death of yourself is not a good thing. And so after that, it wasn't that much longer after he had seen that. He left me and my family, my grandma and all of them. He was murdered, and sure enough, he was murdered by his best friend.
Sorry, my mute button's not working again. Um, oh, where did he go? Oh no, we lost him. We lost him. Another abduction. Oh, wait and see if he comes back. You guys tap the screen, send some hearts, we'll get some people in here. Seems like it's kind of a slow knot. Um, Chris, get Chris up here. Thank you for the heart. Hey,
Hey, what's up?
I'm just trying to figure out where did Chief go?
Oh, he disappeared.
Another abduction for the books.
It happens a
Chief, if
lot.
you, yeah, it apparently does. Chief, if you can hear me, come back. I see him. He's still in the chat. I'm gonna bring Jer Bear up real quick because I know he's been waiting for a little bit. Um, Hello and welcome.
Hey guys, what's up?
Oh, nothing. How about you?
Same. I've been listening to your show. Uh, I've spoke before, and I think it's great because you give a platform to people to talk about their experiences. That it's really hard to describe some of these experiences. And it's nice to hear other people's, and it makes it easier to share. And and I tell the stories that I will share because I know that there are people that have similar experiences, and I want to tell people that we have the power. You know, I feel like my mom has this. I don't know. I think we all have some kind of psychic ability. My mother would have a recurring dream where she would be at a wedding, and I think this is where I kind of get my thing from. She would have this recurring dream where she would be at a wedding, and if she did see the bride in her white gown, somebody she knew would get unalived, you know, by whichever means. And and I didn't know this until I was like 20 years old when one of my friends passed away, and she was relieved that it wasn't someone else, and then she apologized, which is always that was interesting. But when I was younger, I would get these visitations by like these dark entities that would turn my room darker than what the dark is and have a vibration, and I would have to like struggle and fight it off, and to the point where I would force myself to fall out of bed. And they would always come, and they come to us when we're half asleep and half awake, when we're in between the veil, and not about our weakness because they're cowards. They're just after our fear. And it wasn't until I realized that look, if they can unalive me, then they would do it. That's not what they're after. That's not what they can do. They just want me scared. So I would fight back, but fighting back is not actually the best thing either because they're pretty smart and they can manipulate you. So I think it's best to stay in love. Think of somebody you love, and even prayer. Every time I prayed, has always got me out of it. But if you want me to talk about an experience, I'll tell you about one of the experiences I've had. I've had many. One time it was in the morning, probably about 9 a.m. And I mean, it sounds so stupid when I talk about it, but this is true. I'm laying on my stomach. I had a black comforter, and the black comforter took shape of like a hooded dude. And I don't remember what movie it was. It might have been a Lord of the Rings movie, or the what's that witch dude? Harry Potter movie. It kind of like it looked like a Grim Reaper, where like my comforter became like his hood, and I could not see. From anyways, I was sleeping on my stomach, and he was suffocating me, shoved my face into a pillow where I couldn't breathe. But for my peripheral vision, I tried to grasp and try to look who it was, and I could not see inside of his hood. It was just complete blackness, and yeah, it was terrifying, and I was fighting him off. And it was so scary because it was daytime. It was like 9 in the morning, and I fought it off, and it's almost like it was a dream, but it wasn't a dream. And man, to this day, and this is like maybe 20 years ago, I don't sleep on my stomach. I just they're not gonna get me like that again. But I know it sounds stupid to even talk about it, but that really happened, and it was real. And but now when I encounter these things, the last time I encountered something like that, it was maybe I don't know. There was a darkness, like a dark cloud, in my room at night, and it was gave off a vibration. Like I can't explain it. And honestly, I to this day I question myself. Like I assumed it was a negative entity, but maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was just something from a different dimension that I can't explain. And I don't know. But I wasn't trying to mess with it. And so yeah, I turned into a preacher. I rebuked it, I prayed, and I pushed it away. And I put my hands up, and I was just praying. I didn't know how else to respond to it, and it took like an inch or two forward at me, and I told it no, no. This is a house of love. I love my sons. I love my mom. I love God. I love my life. I said, you're not welcome here. This is not your house. You got to go. And it went away. And I don't know. Story might be stupid, but I promise you it's true. And I appreciate you giving me this platform to share. And I only share it because I know there's people out there that have similar experiences, and telling you that we have power over these things. If they can unalive us, they would do it, but they can't, and they're after us being scared. So stay strong out there, and peace and love to everybody. And thank you. And I want to hear the next story.
Thanks. Appreciate it. Let's see. Did we figure out where Chief went? Was I don't know. I wanted to ask Chief if you're still here. If you feel like it later on, you don't have to right now, but if you feel like it, I've been wanting to ask you about Dogman, just to kind of get your take on it and see what you think, because I hear so many reports, about Dogman, and I don't know what it is, but I would like to hear someone else's take on it. And
Well, you
yeah,
ran
I
him
thought
over.
what is it? Yeah,
Well, you.
I don't know that it was a dog man though. Um, for the longest time, I actually thought that somebody's pet alligator escaped the bathtub. That's what I told myself for years, was that it was an alligator, because of the length of it. But all right, guys, guest box is open. If anybody wants to come up, did you have any nightmares last night, Chris, from all the ghost pictures?
No, I was creeped out, but no nightmares.
Yeah, I was hoping after all those spooky stories last night that I'd have a good nightmare, but you gotta eat a fistful of cheddar before bed. That's how you have nightmares on command. I don't know if you guys know that, but it works like a charm.
The curtain picture was really cool though.
What did you think of the porch ghost? Because that one's my favorite. I feel like it's more impressive than the curtain ghost. And a lot of ways.
You know what? I have to look at it again because I don't really. That's like the last one you sent me, right?
Second to the last, I think.
Okay, I need to look at it again. But I'll let you know. But I think the current one's gonna be my favorite.
Yeah. We are talking about ghost pictures. After the stream last night, I sent Chris a bunch of ghost pictures that I have, and they're very cool. You guys don't get to see them, unfortunately, because I can't share them here for whatever reason. They should do like a screen share auction on here, like StreamYards.
I think you can, but don't even try it right now.
Yeah, no. Hello, Lodge Shells. How are you?
I'm good. I just now got here and I heard you guys talking about Dogman and calling for Chief to maybe put his take on it. Well, if I
Mm-hmm.
may, I'll share some of the stuff about our stories in the Blackfeet tribe. Okay, so this right here, I'm going to tell you guys that it's an old story, right? It goes back really far. It actually goes back to the origins of how we learned how to hunt. It's really old. So here was this group of Blackfeet, um, and all the buffalo disappeared. They went away. They couldn't find them near and far. They searched, sent out riders. They just couldn't find them. They started to starve. They were all starving. There just wasn't enough game, period, anywhere. And it was during a time of famine like that. Well, the whole band moved and they said, well, we're going to move. We're going to go south and we're going to go look for more. And this one family stayed. Um, and he didn't want to go. He says, no, I'm going to stay here and I'm going to wait for him. Wait for the buffalo to come back. And I'm just going to stay here. Well, above them, there was this butte. Just beyond where they were camped, there was a butte up there. And they were camped in the low ground. Well, as the band moved south from them and they stayed put, they started to starve. And it was so bad that they were just laying still in their lodge. All of them, they were dying, the man, the wife, and the kids. And they were dying in there. They were starving to death. Well, up on that butte is where all the predators met. That's where all the predators were camped. And this was going into the winter. And that's where they were going to winter, is up on that butte. Well, as they're up there, they look down and they see those people down there. And the predators are, of course, the wolves. There's black wolf, big wolf, gray wolf. There was a wolverine, skunk. All these predators were up there. And so what they end up doing, the chief of them was one of the wolves. I want to say it was Black Wolf, was the chief of all the predators at the time. And what he did was he sent down his son, and the two other wolves sent their sons down too. And he says, go down there and check on those people and see what they're doing down there. And so they did. And he told them, now make yourselves as people when you get there so they ain't afraid of you. And those boys listened and they went down. Well, when they got close, how they changed was they still had a hide of what animal they were, but they changed themselves into humans and it kind of looked like you could still see dog features in them, like wolf features. You could still see them. And they walked in, they opened that lodge door, and those people got scared. They were looking at them and couldn't move. They were too emaciated, but they were afraid. And they just looked at them, and then they went back up and told their fathers what they seen, and they told the chief what they seen. And he says, now go back down there and take this meat and give this meat to them and let them eat. And when they're ready, tell them to come up. I wanna meet with them. And so they did. They went down and did as they were told. Of course, the people were afraid of them still, but once they seen they had food, they kind of lightened up a little, and they got to eating, and they kind of gained a little bit of strength back. Well, in time, they went up and they met with that chief of the predators, and they moved their whole lodge up there with them. They were invited to live up there, and all of those predators, they had a circle of lodges, and they let those people stay in the middle, and they were kind of basically surrounded by all their lodges. And as the people, the Blackfeet, looked at those lodges, they could see that there was painting on every lodge. This is where we get our painted lodges from. This is why they're so sacred. This is why we frown upon others when they just paint anything on their lodge. Because it actually means something if you see a real native painted lodge. This is where the first ones came from. Well, anyways, in time, that man went and he met with the chief of those wolves. And he said, stay with us a winter and we'll teach you a few things and we'll give you gifts so you guys don't starve and you can take care of your people better. And he agreed. He says, what I'm going to have you do is go and meet with every chief of every type of predator. You're going to meet with them. You'll eat with them and stuff, and you'll gain their knowledge. They'll give you gifts. And so that's what he did. So long story short, chief gave him a lodge, a painted lodge, as a gift. And the main chief, the wolf, he said, now you're going to take all of these when we leave and we go back out of here after the winter. You're going to take each lodge and you're going to give a painted lodge to each one of the people in your tribe until you have no more, but you'll keep one for yourself. That'll be yours. And those were his instructions. Well, during that winter, he also learned how to hunt in a pack, like how wolves do. They taught him how to hunt. And the wolf's kid really liked him. He liked him. He's like, I like these people, Dad. I ain't going to move on with you guys when it's time to go. And that time came and they said their goodbyes. And before he left, that chief told him, he says, look, he took that man and he pointed up to the Milky Way. And he said, you see that? He says, that's called the Wolf Trail. He says, that's where we come from. All life comes from that. And he pointed, he says, that's where your spirit goes when you die. It goes up that wolf trail. And he says, when you pray, direct your prayers up toward that and we'll answer you. That's what and of course, these are the spirit form of the animals, right? These are spirits. When we talk like this, we ain't saying a regular wolf does that. No, we're talking about the spirits. And so he listened to him. He says, all right, and, gained all this knowledge. And that boy stayed with them. Eventually, that boy married a human and they had offspring. So over time, every winter, more and more of those animals start coming in and saying, hey, we like these people. We're going to live with them. They made themselves into people. And that right there was a big mistake that caused a lot of problems for the people and animals alike, because they weren't supposed to mix like that. So in the Bible, they have the Nephilim, I don't really understand too much about it, so I don't want to speak too much about it. But from what I understand, the supernatural being mated with the human and got a Nephilim. That's what happened to us, but in our way, it wasn't angels or whatever that is that mated with the humans. It was the animals. And so that practice was done away with. They realized, all the good spirits, everybody realized that it was wrong and they stopped it. But from that story, I often wonder, is this where the dogman came from? This thing, is it really old? Is this where it come from? We have stories of the deer woman. We have stories, and this is a lesser known one, but in Blackfeet we have a story about a Wolverine woman. So I wondered, and if you dig far enough into this, you'll even hear stories of a bunny man. It's true, a bunny man. Granted, it wasn't a predator, but I wonder about these things. Goat man, I wonder about these things. Is this where they originated from? We'll probably never know. But that's just my take on this whole dog man thing. And I don't want to take up too much more time, but that's all I'd like to share for tonight.
Yeah, I like that. That's probably the best explanation for it that I've ever heard, really.
Yeah, those are stories, and I wonder about that, though. It really makes me curious. Then you hear stories of Mothman. Whatever was a
Yeah.
time in our oral history that they mixed. So that's kind of my take, and I sit here and I ponder that sometimes. it To me it's fascinating, and I know y'all enjoy stuff like that too. So that's why I was kind of willing to share with people, because our culture, our oral history is just that. It's oral. To hear our stories, you have to talk to somebody from those tribes, and not all of them are willing to share. Like with me, I won't share as much as Chief does. He shares in depth. I don't, I come from those medicine people, my family, and there are things I know I can't cross. I can't cross those barriers. And it's not because we are trying to hoard knowledge. No, that's not it at all. We're actually trying to protect people.
Yeah.
I may have mentioned this before, but if you learn some of these things, you might go nuts. You might lose your sense of reality, and we don't want to harm people with some of these things, including myself. I don't want to know some of these things that the higher levels in the societies know. The societies, like the holy societies, that I really, because I don't have rights to that, and I know it's harmful, and I wouldn't want to cross that line myself. So anyways, that's one of the stories we could share, because what we call that is today we call it a everybody story. Everybody can
Mm-hmm.
learn that story and hear it. You also have a kid story that where you just tell these little bits and pieces to little kids, and they get those stories from a young age. Now, when you're in a society and you have rights to these medicines that are in these stories, then you'll learn that on a high level. Like you'll say, okay, when that man set out and he went up to talk to that chief, that chief painted him painted him like this, and he taught him these songs, and he gave him this lodge, and these are the instructions he gave him to that lodge. You'll learn in depth, but that's not for me to say. Those kinds of things are not my right to talk about. But anyways, that's kind of what I wanted to share with everybody. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And everybody go check out Lodge Tales. He has a really good podcast. Definitely give him a follow.
All right, see you.
Thanks. Guest box is open, folks. Come up and tell your scariest, spookiest, paranormal or otherwise story. It doesn't have to be paranormal. It could be something that's just generally frightening. You know. But if it's about the Loch Ness Monster, you're going to get extra bonus. So just throwing that out there. If anybody has a Loch Ness Monster story.
It's not gonna happen, Sarah.
I know. I keep hoping. I keep hoping if I say it enough that the algorithm will direct the Scottish people here to tell me about their encounter with Nessie.
It was a toy submarine.
You think so?
I think I think the guy admitted it that took that picture.
I never heard that anybody admitted to hoaxing it. Now, there have been lots of other hoaxers and just, people who lied later on. But
Yeah.
I'd like to think that the original Nessie was a dinosaur. Hopefully.
Oh
And
man,
not a toy.
I fell down a rabbit hole researching that, and oh man, I'll have to send it to you because I think there was they found like some kind of corpse or something. I don't know if you know about that, like way back in the day. Yeah, like some kind of skeleton or something washed up on shore.
Yeah, I hear a lot about Nessie. I always try to read the news articles and stuff anytime something comes out, but it's never anything significant, and it's always like two tourists from America saw Nessie. It's like, oh, that's interesting that the people who live there don't see it, but two really lucky tourists happen to see it. So I don't know. There's barely ever good news about Nessie, but we can hope. Um,
Does
yeah,
anyone have a
interesting.
glitch?
Yeah,
I'm
glitch
sorry.
in the Matrix stories. No, you're fine. You're fine. I keep forgetting to update this background to put the glitch in the Matrix thing on it. And I don't know what happened to the one that I had. It's gone. I don't know. Everybody tap the screen. More hearts equals more people equals more spooky stories. And we want some people to come and tell us some stories tonight. I was surprised last night was as busy as it was.
It was.
Yeah, everybody's recovering from the big football fiasco yesterday, I suppose. I don't know where everybody's at.
You need to put that up there. Paranormal or glitch in the matrix stories.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying is like I keep forgetting to update my old ones. Like my goat man, he does the best out of all the backgrounds. So I pretty much just always use him, but I always forget to update it to put that on there. I should make a note to do that. I don't know. I'll probably forget it anyway. Come on, guys. Somebody's got a spooky story, surely. Alien abductions, ghosts, poltergeists. Don't make me tell one of my own ghost stories. Nobody needs to hear
Frogman.
me ramble. Frogman. Yeah, that's another one we're probably not going to get any results on, unfortunately. Not connecting. Oh, hello?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Say, you were talking about stories and stuff like that. I am a railroad conductor in southern West Virginia. The railroad, of course, has a lot of interesting history. We go up, a lot of hollers that are really, full of history. It's dark. There's weird energies there. It's kind of hard to explain, but one story that I heard that sticks out to me that I think about quite often, back in the late 70s into Pike County, Kentucky, close to, I believe, Hellier. They did a documentary on it or something like that. And there was this mines up there, and the conductor would have to take a cab and shove up the mine from the main line. Well, when they were going up through there, they would have to go through water. Like the rail was, probably about 12 inches underwater, and they'd shove the cab up to the holler, and there would be a guard shack there. Well, what I'd heard, the one guy, he was out there, he was a Vietnam veteran that worked in like the rat tunnels. So he was like in a lot of combat, hand-to-hand combat. I mean, seeing a lot of bad things. So this was not, just a man. This was a fearless type of man. Well, he went up through there and shoving up the holler. And like I said, it's real dark. You probably only get 2 hours of sunlight through this holler. He goes up through there, and the engineers on the head end of the train, and they had a brakeman back there, and he would be responsible for tying down the train and things like that. The conductor back then just conducted the business of the train. Well, they go back through there, and they seen something, and they took off and they started running to the head end of the train. Now, it scared this man so bad, what he had seen, that he was sweating and just freaking out. And the engineer's like, "What's going on? What did you see? Tell me what's going on." He said, "I will never, ever talk about what I seen up that holler, ever." And whatever it was disturbed this man so bad, he didn't talk about it. And it actually caused the train master of that particular area to put out a bulletin saying that nobody was to go up through there at night. And before that bulletin was placed out, another conductor was on a cab shoving up the holler there. And he had a sandwich, was sitting there eating. Back then, the conductors, that was their car. Like, that's what they lived in. Got off the cab and started doing some work, and he had a sandwich there, come back, and half of his sandwich was eaten. And I had talked to an old man that has been out there for probably almost 40 years working. He said when he was young as a brakeman, he walked up there. He said he seen something when he was sitting on the motor come by in front of him that was sort of like it would change shapes. It would go from like a rectangle to a triangle, and it was dark. And he said it was so dark that it was darker than night, but you could see it was a shape of some sort. And eventually the mines ended up closing, but the train master did issue that nobody was to go up there at night. A lot of people had experiences up through there, but I will say, working on the railroad with all the history, me personally, going out and, working on trains, you get a lot of eerie feelings in some places. I mean, not just because it's dark and desolate, but you feel a lot of energy, in some of these hollers, just, me being a woman, I think that kind of brings on a different kind of energy. Like, you're not supposed to be here. Why are you doing this type of work? I worked several times. I just felt like something was just standing right next to me. But, I do my job and I try not to think too much about spooky stuff before I go out. But it is. It's a lot of history, with the railroads. I know that there's a tunnel going towards Norton, Virginia, um, that you could go and read about. And it talks about, all the haunted history in this tunnel. They hear voices. When we go through the tunnel is hand hewed from like 1901. We go through there in our locomotive. They're called wide body locomotives. We go through, and the visors on the side will actually hit the sides of the tunnel going through there. And every time I'm like, oh, don't break down here, because that's not a place I want to break down at. But yeah, I just figured I'd
Yeah.
share that. We see a lot of things. I see a lot of things. The other day, Tuesday, I was out working in McDowell County, Southern West Virginia, and seeing a bunch of weird lights. I see a lot of stuff out there. I don't know. We don't have our cell phones. We're not allowed to have our phones on. A lot of areas don't have cell service, but I guess when you start really looking around and you're not distracted by phones and everyday life, and you're out there in the woods, you see a lot of unique things. But just thought I would share that story with you.
That's really interesting. I actually have a train story too. I'm curious, and you may not be able to comment on this, and if you can't, it's perfectly fine. But are you familiar with the CSX UFO incident?
Yes, yeah, an engineer had told me about that. That was like crazy. Like, I couldn't even believe that. Yeah, yeah, that I've actually read a couple things about that. It's really interesting. A lot of people didn't know that, but yeah, it's pretty interesting. But I appreciate you for your time. I'm probably going to get a call here for work real soon, but I just wanted to
Alrighty.
hop on and tell you my little story. But thank you for your time. I enjoy listening to you.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.
So, for anybody who doesn't know, I'll tell you the CSX train incident. But first of all, you have to tap the screen, or else Mothman, he's gonna get us. He's gonna eat us all. Tap the screen, send some hearts, get some people in here. So the CSX UFO incident. Has anybody in here know the story by any chance? I talk about it all the time. You probably know it if you've been watching me for any length of time whatsoever. Um,
I actually don't know that one.
really?
No.
So I kind of have like some, I wouldn't say direct ties to the incident, but a little bit, kind of, I guess you could say. I hesitate to say that I have like insider knowledge. I kind of sort of do. So I was a senior in high school when it happened, and my mom and my stepdad picked me up from school one evening, and we went into town. And my mom wanted to get like scratch off tickets and stuff at the gas station, so we stopped at a gas station, and she goes in, and she's in there for like ever. She's not coming out. It's like, oh my god, did she get abducted? Eventually, she comes out, and she's like, "Oh, hey, Big Lou, how are you? I'm glad you got to come to a live stream finally." Uh, so she comes out and she's like, "You're not going to believe this. This is crazy. You know how like old men will kind of congregate at gas stations in small towns and gossip?" So the night slash morning hours before this particular day, because I grew up right next to the town where the UFO incident happened. The night before that, a bunch of these old guys were apparently in the Paintsville area, and they saw it, and so they were all talking about it and telling the woman behind the counter about how a train had hit a UFO, and the government descended within minutes on this location. They pounced on it. They came with flatbeds. They set up tents. They put tents over the area so that nobody could see what they were doing. They took the train, they put it on a flatbed truck, they wrapped it up and drove off with it. They took part of the railroad tracks. I guess they took them off the ground. They took dirt. They took everything, anything that had come in contact with this UFO, they took it. And so for years, I didn't hear anything else about this except for, the old man gossip from Sandy Hook. So then in like 2010, 12 ish, something like that, I joined a Appalachian UFO Research Society. And they were like super invested in it. So they were kind of interested to hear my story. I was like, oh, I have a little bit of a personal experience with this situation. And so they got to kind of dig in. They went to the location from where the train took off to where the train crashed. They did like all of this, research trying to gather information. And one of the guys on the team found an original witness to the crash. And apparently, so there was a UFO out in the middle of nowhere hovering, and the train comes through around a corner and it hits it, right? Collides. Big mess. And yeah, so they found the conductor, I think it was, or somebody that was up close to the front. Basically, what happened was the government also took the people. So they took all of the people that were on the train that witnessed this. I'm gonna get bananaed for this story, probably. Chris shouted out if I'm saying any keywords that I should say. So they take them and they keep them like all night in this little room somewhere like hours away. They question them, interrogate the crap out of them, and then they tell them not to talk about it and they turn loose. And then like over the years, by the time this story comes up again, they're all sick. Many of them have like really severe forms of cancer. I don't know if it's connected, but it seems relevant. And one of the guys, I actually was Facebook friends with him for quite some time, and I was going to try to get him on a live stream over on the old streaming place. And he was, I couldn't communicate with him. Like every time I tried to talk to him, he was so far out, I couldn't make heads or tails of what he was talking about. He was just like, you know what I mean? Just not really in touch with reality. So I kind of quit messing with him. I was pretty, saddened and disappointed about that. I don't know if the guy's always been that way. I don't know if he, I don't know what his deal was, but I stopped talking to him because he was creeping me out a little bit. Anyway, there's like a whole lot more to this story that I absolutely can't tell on here, and I'm not even going to try because it would be too hard to mince words and pick out code words and stuff. But there was a lot of weird stuff happened during the time period that the Research Society was investigating this case. So that's what I know about the CSX UFO incident. And one of the guys, I'll just say this, I'll put it this way. You know how there's this theory out there that if you know too much about extraterrestrial stuff, that somebody will come after you. You know what I mean? Like
The Men in Black.
Yeah, sort of, but maybe a little worse. And maybe they're a little aggressive, and maybe they say things that are really scary, like if you don't shut up, we're gonna have a problem. So this guy that was on the research team was experiencing that. His wife swore up and down. She swore, still to this day, she still swears that they were being harassed big time. And this particular investigator, whom I was friends with, passed away very unexpectedly. It was really weird. The whole thing was really super weird. And it was really scary, too. All right, looks like we got a person. Everybody tap the screen, send some hearts, get some people in here.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey.
Are you there?
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay. Yeah, your volume's a little bit low.
Let me do something. Give me a second. Okay, now, how can I get back on camera? You hear me now?
Yeah.
Let me pull this up. Now, that I. Shia. Some of that, like, hello?
Yeah.
Do you see me? Or where am I? I'm on settings.
No, I can't see you. Do you have a story you want to share with us?
Yeah. You talk about paranormal. I had some paranormal stuff to talk about. Some crazy
Okay.
shit. I'm
Cool.
saying, but, and this has something to do with some, I think I cheated to do it. I think I cheated to do it. But I don't know for sure because I was kind of like left the building and something took over in one of those situations. But I was dealing with some JWH 118. Yeah, they call it Tunchi Spice K2, whatever you want to call it. And some incidents took place after that incident. Some people told me I left the building. Somebody came in the building, and it definitely wasn't me. And what they was explaining to me was crazy. Like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? So I want to know who knows about stuff like demons, like for real shit. Besides the UFO stuff, because I think
He got raptured.
Um, yeah, I think he did.
Yeah.
Um, could anybody hear him in
I
the
could
chat?
barely. Yeah. I could barely hear him. Sassy's saying they couldn't hear him either. So I don't know what was going on there.
Yeah. Also, guys, you can't cuss on here, so
All right, guys. Well, let's see if we got anybody. Spooky stories. Guest box is open. Um, the
look.
Men in Black got him. Yep. They'll do that, apparently. Apparently, that's really a thing. I'll tell you another little tidbit of something that happened, and this is anecdotal. I'm not saying that this for sure is like, I mean, it was really weird, but like, who knows? It could be anything, could have been a coincidence. So, this was back in the time period, like what I was telling before. This is back when Paranormally Correct was still the radio show, and we were on air one night, and we were kind of laughing and joking about, being basically followed and watched and monitored by three-letter agencies and so forth, and just being facetious in general. And we're like, poking fun at these people and like, oh, why don't you turn off our power and disrupt our live or our broadcast? And our power went off for just like 3 seconds. But it could be a coincidence. But that was weird. We had to reboot the whole show. We had to like call the producer and get him back online with us, and like he was, yeah, it was weird.
Yeah, that is weird.
I don't know if it was a coincidence. The only time it ever happened, so pretty weird. Maybe they are listening.
Yeah, but that's crazy about that train story. Maybe the UFO stalled on the tracks.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I feel like there was something that that investigative team uncovered as to what was going on, that it was out there to begin with, or like what they thought maybe was going on. Also, there was something that was being hauled on the train that they thought maybe might be enticing to aliens. I don't know if these were just all theories or what, but all
A
right,
bunch of
looks like
cows,
we
maybe.
got it. No, what was it? Was it like coal or metal? Maybe it was silver.
Okay.
I don't remember. It was some type of metal. Hello and welcome. And
Oh
goodbye.
no.
Why is everybody getting raptured tonight, guys? What's going on?
There's 100
Uh,
people in here. Somebody come up here.
Somebody surely has a spooky story that you're just itching to tell.
Or glitch in the matrix.
Yeah, definitely. Can you put like I've seen other live streamers put like little text boxes on the screen, but I don't know how they do that. Do I have to do it before the stream? Because I don't have settings for that, I don't think. You know what I'm talking about? Like little text boxes that you can kind of.
I'm not too sure actually. I don't know a lot about live. I'll let you know though. I'll find out.
Yeah. It's not a big deal, but it would be nice to be able to just like, add a couple things here and there. And then that way. Um,
Hi.
hey, Lodge Shells.
So, let me talk about this one that happened in Oregon. It happened to my mother. I was in high school at the time, and my sister, my brother, niece, and nephew. Um, so I went to that Chamala Indian school, like I was telling you guys, in Oregon, and my mother moved up there too, to that town that's near there, that city called Salem, right near there. She had rented this house, this old white house, and when she first walked into that place, she was visiting it, well, touring the house with my little brother at the time. I'm 5 years older than him, and they were just walking through. Oh, this is a nice place. Yeah, this could be my room. Blah blah blah. Going through looking at it. But when she walked past that stairwell that goes up to the top two rooms, they look weird. They have the slanted roof up there and stuff. It's kind of like almost looks like an attic, but it's not. There's a couple of rooms up there. It's kind of how it looked. Well, anyways, as she was walking past that, she seen this nun was standing up there, kind of looking down at her at the top of those stairs. And my mom didn't think anything of it. She just thought, well, that I just take that as a good omen, good spirit. Didn't think too much about it. Said a prayer, and that was that. So she ends up moving in there. I'm still at the dorms, but I would come over and stay with her through the summer, and then she only stayed there that one summer, and I was staying there the whole time with her through that summer and part of that last school year before she moved there. Well, anyways, as as I was there that summer, my sister came up with her young daughter, and her daughter was like just learning how to talk. Well, she could talk, but she couldn't hold a really good conversation just yet, but she could talk. And the youngest one, her son, he was just like crawling yet. He could talk, but again, it wasn't like really. His was even more kind of like he must have been about 1.5 or so. So however you talk like that, and she was a little older than him. She had them right after each other. So one night she's Bobby at her. I hate to say the names, but my niece got in trouble, and I can't remember what she was doing, but her mom scolded her. Says, "No, you don't be doing that." Whatever it was, I don't even remember what she did, but my niece got upset and she went upstairs, and she was up there a while. She was actually cooking spaghetti. How do I remember this? I don't know, but she was cooking spaghetti, and my brother and I were watching TV. And it wasn't about maybe 15, 20 minutes. Like, hey, where's that? And it's quiet. You know how people get when there's a kid around, it gets quiet. Like, oh, she's into something. It's kind of how it was. So I asked my sister, you know, where's my niece? And she said, oh, she went upstairs. Just go check on her. All right. So me and my brother went up to check on her. We get to the top of these stairs and look to the left into that room on the left. And as soon as we do, that old window just slams shut. And my niece is sitting there in a chair, like, has the chair kind of arched kitty corner out the window, not full on straight with it, but kind of like slanted. And she's sitting there and she was looking up when we came around. And the window slams. She doesn't even flinch. This little kid doesn't even flinch. It didn't even scare her. But she turns her head so slow toward us and looks at us. At that point, my brother got scared, and I did too. I ain't gonna lie, I was scared. And I seen my sister at the bottom of the stairs. My brother had already taken off running, and I seen my sister getting ready to come up with that baby. And I went running down to grab the baby and says, no, don't bring that baby up there. And she passed me, handed the baby off, and went up there and went into the room. So what's wrong, my girl? And I just stood at the bottom and watched, and she brought her down. Well, what was so strange about that is earlier that day, my brother and I, my mom told us, hey, you guys go up there and open that window, you know, because it's hot up there. Let that air flow through. And we went up to open it, and it was so hard to open. It was, they had paint, and they just painted it shut basically. So here's my brother and I trying to wedge that window open without breaking the whole darn windowsill apart, you know, by just forcing it. We end up getting it up, and what we had to do was kind of, once we got it up a ways, we could put our shoulders under it and just stand up. That, and it hurt. It really hurt when it was digging in my shoulder, but we were able to get it up. And I said, now how are we going to close it? And he says, I don't know. We both grabbed it, and I said, let's test it. And we kind of pulled, like, oh man, we're not going to be able to get that closed, I don't think. That's what was so creepy about that. That's really what sent my brother flying down those stairs. There's no way it could do that, right? So time goes on, and one day she comes up to me and she says, Uncle, she says, there's a woman that comes and visits me and my brother at night. I said, what? She said, yeah, there's a woman that comes and she's magic. So what do you mean she's magic? Like, who are you talking about, for one? And she said, her name's Bucket Woman. I said, Bucket Woman? Why do you call her Bucket Woman? I said, because she has this thing that looks like a bucket on her head. You know, those old nun hats that look like a bucket, I guess? That's kind of what we all think. Anyways, she said, she's magic. I said, what? How? She said, she can make these little lights, these little round lights float all over in the room. You know, she can make them fly around. I'm thinking, like today, I'm thinking orbs. I don't know. She said, but she can even make those little lights change colors, but they float all around the room, and she shows us. She says, but Daniel don't like her. I said, why? He's scared of her. But why is he scared? Are you scared of her? She said, no, I'm not. She's nice. She's magic. And so, well, why is your brother scared of her? She said, because she came one night, and I gave her a hug, and I told my brother, go give her a hug. And he wouldn't do it, and finally, oh, come on, don't, just give her a hug, it's okay. And he went and gave her a hug, and when he did, he backed up and he looked at his hands, and they were all bloody. I said, what? And this is coming from a little kid. Like, kids don't talk like this, right? So this is what really kind of concerned us and kind of scared us. And we started realizing things after a while. Like, so school had started. I went back to the dorms, and one weekend I went home. My mother and my uncle were painting over this thing in that room, and we always seen it, but we never did anything about it. It looked like a compass, right? Like it pointed north on one side. But when you really look at it, it looked like one of those pentagram things. And it always kind of creeped us out, but we just, it's just a compass. That's what I thought. I just never let it bother me. But if you were to really look at it, that's what it looked like, was a pentagram. And so I come home, and my mom's got all this painting stuff out, and I could smell fresh paint. I said, what are you doing? She says, we've painted over this thing twice now. And each time we paint over it, it comes back. I said, no, really? I was curious at that point. And so they were up there. I didn't touch anything. They put another layer on it. And she went back downstairs. She's like, yeah, just let that dry. Because I was looking at it, there's no way, that's plumb painted over. The floors were black, oddly enough, and that's what she was painting over. It was black. And I went downstairs. I just kind of forgot about it. I used to take those kids swimming in this little creek over there. Well, I come back up a bit later. She says, now come up with me, let's look at it again. And we go up there, and sure enough, it's fading back through that paint. I don't know how it's doing it. I really don't. It's not like it's cheap paint. There's multiple layers on it too. And eventually it comes all back. It fades all the way back into its original color. And it's like this reddish orange color is how it comes back. That's always been the color of it. I couldn't believe that it did that. I really couldn't believe that. And we just ended up putting a rug over it, right? Because my mom was afraid to start sanding and stuff up there. Because that was the next thing I was telling, just sand it. It's like, I don't want to have to pay. If I do anything wrong in this house, I don't want that landlord to start making us pay extra money for this or whatever. So I'm just going to leave it. Maybe she likes it there. I don't want to remove it, that kind of thing. So she said, let's just leave it. I already tried painting over it. I didn't think that'd be a big deal, but I'm not gonna start trying to destroy this floor. So, okay, then, and we just put a rug over it, and that was that. So one night, another weekend I come back, my mom said, or my uncle told me, he says, "Hey, go in that closet on that side, because you have to actually crawl into these closets, because like I say, the ceiling's slanted, so you only have like this 3 foot high side. It makes like a little closet in there. I used to store a few things there too on what we'd call my side, and he told me, yeah, Rod, will you crawl in there on my side and grab this side? I think it was a book he was reading, or something in there. He had me get for him. I don't even remember, but." So, yeah, sure. I crawl in there and I grab it for him. I was thinking to myself, that was odd, because he was always in there kind of putting his stuff away and, digging stuff out and whatever. It didn't seem like no big deal, but that day he had me do it and he wasn't hurt. So it seemed a little odd, but I just kind of forgot about it. And then I went downstairs after a while and I was talking to my mom, and she was kind of being quiet and like secretive. She says, "Come here." She's like, "Your uncle crawled in that closet yesterday. When he did, I could hear him up there. He just come flying out there, crawling out there really fast, come flying down those stairs." And I asked him, "What's going on?" He says, "I don't know. There's something with that closet." And he never went back in there again. And he never told us what he's seen in there. And he's passed on, and I could never get him to tell me what he's seen in there. He just wouldn't talk about it. So whatever it was really scared him. I really don't know what it was. A little bit after this, my mom, she found out about some of these foster kids that needed a place, and she's had a big heart, so she took in those foster kids, and her bedroom was right below where the foster kids stayed up there, and she could hear them like screaming, like maybe having nightmares, is the way my mom said it sounded like. They were like maybe having like fitful nightmares. She'd go up and check on them. They'd still be sleeping. There'd be nothing wrong with them. She'd go look at them and make sure they're all right and everything. Go back down, and then she'll hear them talking up there. She'll hear them talking, and she'd go up there and just like nothing's even going on. Like, I don't know if they're fake sleeping or what at the time, my mom was saying. She says, but they seem asleep to me. And anyways, what we figured out with this was that nun, that spirit that was up there, it only messed around with those kids. Like, it only would show itself to them, to my mom, that one time. None of us have ever seen it. All the older kids, we never seen it. Not once. It's just all those little kids. That was one of the creepier things that I remember about that place. But when my brother said, we were leaving, he says, I went with mom there to check it out. And when we were leaving, our first time seeing it, I looked back and I seen this face looking out the window at me off that top window. That's that same window I'm talking about, where mom would hear those kids up there kind of like having nightmares or something. But he said, yeah, I seen a face, like a woman looking at me when I left. He says, because I was looking back out the back window at it. But that's the story of Bucket Woman. And this is confirmed by everybody in my family. We kind of all was there when things would happen and stuff, but just the kids seen that lady they called the Bucket Woman. And that house is in Oregon. If you go on the well, it's not there yet, but on the website of Lodge Tales, I'm gonna post where this is at, because we finally found it after years and years. We never really talked about it, but since I started the podcast and everything, I kind of got back into thinking about this place, and I actually found it on Google Maps. So I'll be putting pictures up there of what this place looks like and everything. It's in Oregon. It's in Salem there. But
Yeah, I'll check that out, because that sounds really interesting, actually.
that might be a place for people to go and investigate if you're into that thing and you're in the Salem area. Who knows?
Yeah.
I don't know if I don't want to go check that out, but
I would.
yeah, that's definitely probably worth somebody like you investigators' time. I would definitely think it would be. But again, like I said, it mainly showed itself to those kids. So who knows what you'd get there. So this next story is about it's about those old boarding schools where when they were stripping the language and the belief system out of my grandpa and all them. Um, it's called the Holy Family Mission on a Blackfeet reservation. It's out into Medicine. And so my grandpa, after my grandma had passed away in 86, he used to always go to church. He like went every Sunday. Every Sunday he'd go. And he would always try to, tell us to come with him and everything. He'd invite us to go. Hey, you gonna come with me? I'm going down to that church. And I'd go with him sometimes. Other times, like, no, I'm gonna go fishing or whatever. But so one time I went with him down, and I was about in the third. Wait, yeah, about the third grade or so. I was really young, and both of the dorms were still up, but they were long since condemned and falling apart, and they were really dangerous to go into. But kids will be kids, right? And so we're all the adults are in the church, and my buddy, he lived out there. Like his folks had a house near that church, so he was always at church. And we and him, we went to go explore that. It would be the girls' dorm. There was a boys' dorm and a girls' dorm, and so we go into this girls' dorm, and we're looking around. It's just like a broke down. We could see like this. It looked like a dining area, and there was this dark hallway that led down. It was the only way that led down to the rest of this long building. It was rectangular, and we were just on one side, and we didn't get to explore much of it because that was like the only way down and further into the building. So we were both scared because it was so dark. And my friend grabbed my shirt, and he was hanging on to me. Oh, I was glad he, had, because I could feel him hanging on to me. So I was kind of a little braver, I guess. And we both had our hand on a wall because we couldn't see. And we start walking down this hallway. And before long, I felt with my hand that there was this corner, and I got around that, and oh, thank goodness I could see the light. There was light up there on top of these stairs. So that's where we wanted to go. We did not want to keep going down that hallway because it kept going, and I think to like more rooms. Anyways, we see that light and we start going up. He's still hanging on to me, onto my side, but as we're going up the stairs, he kind of goes by me. He like gets up there first. You could tell he was kind of freaked out. And so once we get to the top, and it's like a hallway, if you look down about halfway down that hallway, there's enough light to see the whole thing at this point, because where the light's coming from is the ceiling's caved in on one room. Not all of it, but the bulk of it's caved in. Just a little bit of it's left by the front door of it when you walk into this room. And so we could see all the light, and it's daylight, and we feel safe and everything. Well, my buddy goes out that wall that was caved down too, like caved in and just down. He walks off to the edge, and there's this little shed down there, and there's like this chimney that comes out of that shed. I don't know what they used it for, but yeah, there was like this brick chimney that come out of there, and that shed was somewhat big. He jumps down onto that roof, and that wasn't too far of a drop, but the drop from that shed to the ground was high for a kid. It was high. I know it was probably about 12 feet, 10 feet, somewhere like that. It was a high drop. He jumps down off of that, and walks behind this tree that's right next to it. And I'm standing there. I didn't even get out of that room yet, and I was yelling at him, Joe, did that hurt your feet? Did that sting your feet? Like, what the heck? He didn't come out from that tree. I bet you he went around a building to my right and went around this way where I can't see him. Like, look, I'm not staying up here. I got scared, and so I jumped down, right? The same thing, but I hung drop. I didn't just jump off like he did. I hung drop, and it stung my feet bad. So I'm kind of like limping around that tree looking for him. That feeling's still in my feet, and it hurts. I'm looking for him. He's nowhere. He's like, I look all the way down. There's no way he could have went that way. There's no way. Where did he go? I'm like kind of confused. And I'm just walking out the other side of that tree, and then I hear him holler at me from that same room. Hey, did that sting your feet? I just ran because I already seen him jump down. There's no way in heck he could still be up in that room. So I I get so scared that I run all the way back to that church, and I sit by my grandpa until the church is done. We come out. I don't even want to talk, but he's looking at me like really questioningly, and I'm just like, I don't know, Joe. I don't. He said, what happened? Where'd you go? I just came back here. I said, why? I said, because, and I told him what I seen. Like, I already seen you jump off of that roof and go behind that tree, but yet you were still up top. He says, no. I lost you going down that dark hallway. I didn't have a hold of you anymore. I lost you. But that whole time I was going down that dark hallway and up those stairs, I felt somebody hanging onto my shirt. And so I don't know, somehow in there that thing grabbed me, and I don't know, but that's the story that I have of that mission church. It's not there anymore. It burnt down, and something else that's interesting about when they condemned those that actually burnt that pile, they started the buildings on fire first, if I remember right, and let it all burn down, then scooped it all out with machines. Well, anyways, they hired a non-native crew to demo that place, and that non-native guy that did it, he says, "Look, man, I'm never gonna come back here and demo any of these old buildings for you guys again." He said, "Why is that?" He says, "Because when that thing was burning, I seen something crawl out of one of those top windows all the way to the top of the building, and I can't explain what it was, but that's just not right." And he wouldn't come back to do any more demo work there. The guy just wouldn't come back. It must have freaked him out too bad. But
Yeah.
that's the story of that mission church. It was a sad place. There's a graveyard there of a bunch of little kids and stuff. My grandpa unfortunately had to go there, and he had a lot of trauma from that, and he would tell me stories too. But things like that probably are attracted to that much suffering. So
Hmm.
it now as I'm an adult, I kind of realize there was probably a lot of things that hung around there, and I probably still do to this day.
Yeah,
But
I'd say so.
so this next story that I want to tell is all right. So my brother keeps getting bothered in his house. He used to stay in this trailer that they rented, and they keep getting bothered in there. I mean, I could go on and on about the stories. At one point, the one of our little nephews was playing in those little kid tents, and there was a him and we thought my nephew and my brother's son was in there playing together because we thought that my brother's son was just being mean to our nephew and pushed him out of there. Well, just then my brother's son comes walking in the front door, and my sister-in-law seen her boy get pushed out of there by this little hand, and he was kind of like crying, and he was a little upset. She goes to look in there. There's no kid in that tent. That's just one of the things. My brother-in-law was staying in there one day. Everybody had left, and they went to the store, and he was playing this video game, and he went to go use the bathroom, and he heard what he thought was our niece and nephew in there playing, and he's like, "Oh, they left these kids. I didn't know that." And so he was going to their door to open it and just check on them. And as soon as he gets to the door, he hears the girls say, "Shh, here he comes." And so he opens it, and there are no kids in there at all. It's really bothering them that these things keep happening in this place, and it just goes on and on to seeing this lady outside dancing, like just weird things, and she disappears, kind of. It just goes on and on with this place, to them having really horrible dreams. And so anyways, I kind of, they know how to cleanse things. We were all taught that they know how to do it. And so not only my brother but his wife, they come from traditional families too, they know how to protect themselves and what precautions and measures to take if something's happening. So they keep trying, and they keep trying, and they're doing what they need to do. I mean, they're even putting up barriers. They're doing all the things they're taught. It's not working. Nothing's working. So I kind of get protective at that point. Like, that's my little brother, man. This thing keeps messing with them. So it was one of the weekends. I wait for them all leave, because this is off the reservation, and they're all going back to the reservation to visit for the weekend, and because we were working off the reservation. Well, I wait for them to leave, and I start doing, my part, what I was taught how to do when I was younger. We used to sweat with this man, and he taught us how to do this particular type of cleansing of an area, a blessing of an area. And so I remembered the song. It's one of those things you can't forget. So I remember the song, and I know what to do. And so I go. And as I get to the house, I'm in the kitchen, and that's where I'm going to start. I'm going to start cleansing from there. And I'm going to work my way clockwise around that whole place and make sure I get every nook and cranny, and cleanse it out really good. So as I turn to start going clockwise, I turn around, and there's this woman standing there. This woman's standing there. She's got her head down. she's in this, to me it looked like a nightgown that was kind of burnt. It was either burnt or dirty. I couldn't really tell because I was focusing on her face, on her head, her hair. Her hair was like black and it had gray in it too, but her hair was down over her, like, just she it's like she was looking straight down at the floor. And I seen her, I was just looking at her like, huh. And I had all these holy things with me, and I knew she couldn't bother me, like, I was protected. And so I was going to just start cleansing it, and I thought, well, I'm going to start this way. I'm just going to go around her. I'm going to work my way down that living room, and I'm going to go to those back rooms. I'm going to come back through here. And if she's in that spot, I'm just going to start cleansing her off right there. And I'm just going to, keep going and doing what I got to do. So I go to step around her. This is when she puts her head up really fast, and her nose is like a fist from my face, and she's looking at me. And I take a step back. I'm like, I was looking at her. I said, "You don't scare me. You're dead, and you need to stop bothering these people here." That's all I said to her, and I just start praying right there. That's when I start praying. I started my whole thing, and I just walked around her, and I left. As soon as I got to that living room, though, and I start going into those bedrooms, I glanced back over, and she was gone. She wasn't there anymore. And so I go into the bedroom. Everything in there, even they had a little bathroom back there too, attached to that bedroom. I go in there. I feel something in that closet, can't see it, cleanse that out. I know it's gone by the time I leave. So I go back down, go through the whole place. I only found things in those closets of each room, which was kind of odd. Oh, and under the bed of the daughter's room, way in back, something under there too. So, anyways, I get done with it all. I come back. I finish where I started, and I have that door open, and I chase whatever is in there out, and I shut that door. And I didn't see that woman again. I didn't see her again. And when my brother come back, he start telling me more stories. That's when he told me about that woman dancing outside. He said she has on this like burnt up dress or something, but looks like this old woman. I said, because I was telling him what I went through and what I seen there and stuff, and I just thought that was really, really creepy because I seen her too in that house. And under that bed in his daughter's room, he says, "We never told you to see there, but one night my daughter come running out of there because as she was going to sleep, she could hear something breathing really heavy underneath that bed, just breathing, breathing, and she would get still, quiet. She thought it was the dog, and she turns the lights on, looks under there, there's nothing under there. And she said, "Oh, it's just in my mind," goes back to sleep, and it happens again. It just totally freaks her out. She wouldn't go back in there. And one of my wife's cousins come down to stay and find work and stuff here and there. And he was staying in that back room. I said, "Well, yeah, you can stay for a couple of weeks and make a little money, and yeah, you can stay in that room." So he was in there. He hears the same thing, and he asks, "Where's that dog?" "It's out here." And he says, "Oh, all right." But he goes back in there, and something he could feel something pulling his blankets off. And he pulled it back up. He says, "There's that other dog's in here. And something's in here that one of those dogs are." They had two dogs. And I know they're both right here. And he said, "Oh, there's something back there pulling those covers on me." And they told him, "Well, just smudge. You'll be all right. Just smudge. Come in here." And he says, "Well, I will if it happens again. So I'm just going to try to get some sleep." And he was in there. And anyways, the next morning he wakes up because he must have just fell asleep. All of that blanket, that whole thing that I was covering him up was pulled like about 3/4 of the way into the closet. Into that closet I was talking about, where there was something in there that I chased out, and stuff. But that house and that cleansing was pretty, for me, memorable because it's the first time I actually really seen something get right in my face like that. And it was creepy. I tell you what, it was really, really creepy. I couldn't see her eyes. It was too dark. It's just I know her face is right there. I could see her nose and her cheeks, and she was right in my face. So, anyways, those are the three I thought I'd tell since we needed to have more stories for the night.
Yeah, appreciate it. I actually had an experience kind of similar to what you were talking about. And what caught my attention was she said she was like looking down and you couldn't see her eyes. I saw what I thought was maybe like a doppelganger one time, some type of, paranormal entity.
Hmm.
And it was of my sister-in-law. And I thought it was her. And so I was talking to her, and she was like in the hallway of my mom's house. And I was like, why is she not talking to me? But I realized after I walked away, I was like, that's so weird. I couldn't see her eyes. It was like no matter how she turned her head, she wouldn't look up enough to where I could see her eyes. And it was like the weirdest thing ever. And that's what stood out to me most about that experience is it's like, did she have eyes? But it turned out that my sister in law wasn't even there. They were gone. Like my brother and my sister in law and my nephew, they had left earlier that day. And I thought that they were there and they weren't. But yet I saw her in the hallway and I was like, this is too weird. So, yeah. But it kind of reminded me of that story you were telling.
Yeah, it is something else when you see those things. I don't care what they are. I don't even really. Uh, I know they're spirits, but from what happened to that person, I have no idea what those are at times. I like to think about it, but yeah, deep down, I wonder about them too. Like, because you say doppelganger. There's one at my brother's house where he stays today, and it scares him, scares his whole family. It's happened to every one of them. It shows them, and he says it likes to appear as a little girl a lot of times, and it likes their fish tank. Oddly enough, they used to have this fish tank, and she would stand there and stare at it all the time. Because I said, wait, you're talking about a doppelganger, but you say it's a little girl. But I thought doppelgangers look like people. He says, well, she does, but she'll also appear a lot of times as a little girl, and she likes that fish tank we used to have in that room. That's really weird. Like, what are they just? Yeah, I don't know. I didn't even know what those kind of spirits are.
Yeah. It's like they're fascinated by stuff like that, I guess. You
Yeah.
know.
Well, thanks again for letting me share. I appreciate everybody's time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, see ya.
See ya. Um, hey, Jeffrey. Glad you could make it. Had an out of body experience. Interesting. Very interesting. Trying to get caught up on some of the comments here. Everybody tap the screen, send some hearts. More hearts equals more people equals more ghost stories. Chief, I see you. Katie has been waiting. Let me get Katie up real quick, and then we'll get to you because she's been waiting for quite a while. Thing.
Whoops.
Hello.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Sorry, my phone's being very finicky. Hi. So my story happens more or less when I was about 13, 14 years old. Um, and we had people move into next door to us. It was a family, a little girl, a mom, and a dad. But I didn't pay much attention to it except for at night because every night they would let the little girl at night drive around in her tricycle in the cul-de-sac because we lived in a cul-de-sac. And she would constantly have bites all over her. And I didn't know if she had any kind of autism, but you could tell there was definitely a disability because she couldn't speak, but she would moan out. So I don't know. I didn't do my research. I was 12, 13, or 13, 14 at the time. Anyway, the mother never came out. The mother never, ever came out. And then rumors started in the neighborhood that I started hearing from the adults saying because something is physically wrong with her, she'll never leave the house. So one day when I went into my backyard through the fence, I heard her calling for her daughter. And I looked through the fence and I saw something. But of course, I'm a child, so I thought it was the scariest thing I've ever seen. But it was just her, and she had like a deformity on her face. But anyway, she saw me and she closed the curtains real quick, and that was that. The husband was always weird. He would bother because my mom had a garden right by her, next to her house on the side, and he would come and disturb her. But he would be quiet about it, and then he'd like tap her on the shoulder. He wouldn't speak or say anything. He was creepy. We all thought he was creepy. Come to the point where one night I heard police outside, and there was an ambulance. And unfortunately, according to the husband, the wife tried to unalive herself in the garage, with the car, leaving the car on. But then I was told from some people that went to go look at it after she passed and moved on, and they said they saw scratch marks within the garage and on the door to the garage, like she was trying to get out. So, of course, rumors started again, and it was crazy. He moved out, literally. I don't know how he sold that house, but like 6 months later, he was gone with his daughter. I never heard of him again. But another family moved in, a little girl, a mom and a dad. And one day, they were just talking to me while I was in the neighborhood, and they asked me if I babysat. Yes, I do babysit. Oh, awesome. So I went to go babysit for them. And that night that I went over, she wanted to watch Mary Poppins. I'm very old, by the way. So this was back in the day we were still watching VHSs. So popped in a VHS of Mary Poppins. It was store-bought, Disney, the whole 9 yards. And, I don't know what I can and cannot say on here, but it was porn. It wasn't Mary Poppins. I don't know if someone recorded. I didn't think you can record over a VHS like that, but that's what it was. So I popped that out, finished babysitting. She wanted me to lay down with her because she was scared. I said, okay. So I laid down with her and I started to fall asleep. And then I started hearing someone in the kitchen, doing dishes. Like the glass cleaning, the water on. I heard cabinets closing as if someone was putting all the dishes away. It was really weird. So I went up and I went in the kitchen. Nothing. Lights still out. No dishes. Dishes already done because I did them that night for them. Nothing. Okay, so I go back to bed. That was weird. Maybe it's just me. I'm not go back to bed. Go back to her bed and lay there, and she's laying there. And all of a sudden, I see the ceiling fan turn on. Now I know ceiling fans sometimes somehow can automatically turn on by itself, but this one I didn't turn it on, no light switch. It just started going round and round and round. So then I freaked out a little bit because I didn't know how to turn it off. So then I just laid there. And then she turned around, her name was Miranda. She turned around and she looked at me and she was just like, "Don't worry, that happens all the time." Okay. So then I, falling asleep again, started hearing the dishes. And I was like, nope, not getting up. Not doing this. I laid there in that bed until her parents came home. And they paid me and I left. And I told myself, never again. Never, 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 never. And then the last incident that happened that I saw, police were in the cul-de-sac, up the driveway. And I actually stepped outside because I heard loud shouting. I'm a nosy little girl. So I stepped out the front door and because they're literally right next to me and I saw, sorry, that's my dog coughing. He's got an enlarged heart. So police were there. They're arresting the husband. And he kept saying, I love you guys. I would never. I don't even know what you're talking about. According to the wife, he was drinking as usual. And then he said he held a shotgun, which I did see in their house, up to her and Miranda. And he couldn't pull the trigger. She said that he looked like he was frozen. So she called the police, and the police came and arrested him. And when he kept shouting, I don't remember, I swear. I didn't think anything of it until I was older, and I remembered, well, she said, was he possessed? Can that actually happen? I was just freaking out the whole time. So thankfully we moved and that never saw anything like that again. So that's my story.
Wow.
Yeah, and to this day,
that's pretty intense.
As this day, because not to be TMI, but I do EMDR therapy for myself, and so things come up that I can't, you usually can't remember. But stories I remember so strongly, more details keep coming about. But mostly just, what I was wearing and stuff like that. I don't know, that's weird, I know. But yeah, it was pretty creepy. And to this day, I wonder if that was the first mother in the home, who was just trying to, do everyday, routines that she did. Dishes and turning on the fan for, her daughter. Yeah, it was pretty weird, but sorry I talked too much.
You're fine. Yeah, that's definitely very intense. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah, and people tell me, my adults, they were like, "Oh, you were a kid. What do you know? You're just probably paranoid and seeing things. What are children?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that's true. I agree." But at the same time, I saw this with my own eyes. I was freaking out, and I still freak out to this day. And now that's what got me actually into the paranormal or supernatural, or um, even extraterrestrial and cryptids and stuff like that. So that's what got me started. And now I'm interested in what goes on in someone's head when stuff like this happens.
Yeah.
But thank you for letting me share. I really greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for coming up.
You guys have a good night.
You too. All right. Well, we got a lot of keywords in with that one. We're probably doomed, guys. Everybody tap the screen, send some hearts, get some people in here. Interact, leave comments, shares, whatever you got to do. Got. Oh, okay. All right. We don't have anybody waiting. Rebecca is going to have nightmares tonight. I mean, yeah, like that's the most fun part about spooky late night ghost stories is you get to have cool nightmares later. We were talking about that earlier when Chris was on. The best way is to eat a fistful of cheddar before you go to bed. You'll definitely have nightmares if you eat cheese before bed. I don't know why. Actually, I think I do know why. I saw a TikTok video the other day that was talking about cheese having stuff in it, hallucinogenic things. Hello and welcome.
Hi. I was going to tell a story when we lived in the woods for 7 years, me and my family, when the kids were young. We had moved out there because my husband's aunt and uncle asked us to, because people were stealing their cattle off their land there. So they moved us out there into a trailer so people would stop. And we noticed pretty early that every day the kids went to school and we left for work, we'd come home, the back door would be open. And I was like, what the heck? I know that door was shut. So we started like purposefully making sure it was shut. The door was locked. And I'm like, is someone coming in our house while we're gone? What is going on? We even put a camera in there because I thought someone's like coming in our house while we're gone and running out the back door or something, But we didn't see nothing. And then there was we had like a garden tub and it got clogged and my husband hadn't gotten around to cleaning it. And I was getting annoyed with it. So I started showering in the kids' bathroom. And I was in the bathroom and nobody was home that day. It was just me taking a shower. And I heard like the front door swing open, vibrations of someone running through the house, slinging open the back door and running out. It scared me so bad because I was there all by myself and we lived out in the middle of nowhere on 160 acres surrounded by woods around the house. And I was like, I finally got out and I was peeking out the door like, oh my gosh, there's somebody in my house. What is going on? So I waited for a while and I finally got up the nerve and ran to my bedroom and grabbed a gun, pew-pew, and was looking around and looking outside. I saw nobody. Well, this happened again a few days later and same thing. And I was like, okay, I don't think this is a person. Something's going on here. And then my daughter, my middle daughter was probably about 8 at the time. And she came to me one night and she said, Mama, I'm scared. And I said, why are you scared? And she said, because those children won't stop talking to me. I said, children? What children? She goes, at nighttime, these children talk to me. And I was like, oh no. What is happening? And then there was another day, my son was about 4, and he was usually awake by then, so I went in to check on him. He was asleep in his closet where the toys are kept instead of in his bed. And I woke him up. I'm like, why are you in your closet? And he said, those people keep talking to me. And I was like, okay, what is going on here? This is definitely like a spiritual thing. We lived there 7 years, and this stuff kept happening. But after living there a couple of years, my husband mentioned it to his uncle, and it was his property. And he said, we keep experiencing these things. And my daughter even saw ghost dogs on the property once, a man in a white shirt, and she was scared. My son was seeing people through the window that would talk to him. And so we met. My husband mentioned it to his uncle. It was his property. And he said, well, we bought that property back in the 60s, but there used to be a family that lived on that property, and the house burnt down, and they all died, and so did the animals. Right where we were sitting at. That's my story. But we experienced a lot of weird things there.
Yeah.
It was
I
like
was
a
actually gonna,
residual. It was like a
yeah,
residual
residual.
haunting with the through the door, but there was
Mhm.
also spirits there that did random things.
Yeah, I was gonna ask until you said that, but it's still interesting to note. You mentioned the kids bothering your kids. There was a case in Kentucky similar to that, and it was goblins, because Kentucky apparently has a goblin problem, as I like to call it, a little bit of a goblin infestation. But it turned out there was this family had moved into a home, and there was like an old mine shaft on the property, and there were ultra terrestrials, allegedly, according to the story, coming out and harassing the kids at night and the animals and stuff like that. So that's where I thought maybe this was going. But yeah, that's interesting that you were able to find out the history about the
Yeah,
place.
but I know we lived in the. I live. Sorry, hold on. We lived on 160 acres in the Ozark Mountains, just outside the Mark Twain National Forest,
Hmm.
which is also often reportedly haunted. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was strange, but at least we knew why.
Yeah, at least you found out why. A lot of people never do. All
All
right.
right,
Well, thank you
thanks.
so much for coming up and sharing that with us. Appreciate
All
it.
right, have a good night.
You too. Someone says my background is scary. I know this is my most successful live stream background. Some of the others don't get the attention that this one gets, and I have to give all the credit to the goat man, the Pope Lick goat man. This is my little interpretation of him. He's extra spooky in the background. Sometimes we do the Mothman background. That one does okay too. Um, Residual haunting. Yeah. Yeah, those happen from time to time. I think residual hauntings are more popular and more common than people think or realize. Um, Seem to be, anyway. All right, guys. We did pretty good tonight. A little bit of a slow night, but still pretty good. Had some good stories. Anybody else thinking about calling it for the night if nobody else has got a story they want to share? Guest box is open. If you have a spooky story, Hat Man. Oh, interesting. Yeah, we have a lot of Hat Man stories in here, oddly enough. We even have a Hat Man emoji because it's actually so common that we get people in here who seeing the Hat Man. Yeah, we did, Tully. We had a lot of great stories tonight. There we go. There's the Hat Man. I don't think you could see him that well. It's so hard to make those emojis and make them to where they're clear and visible. I've had to redesign a few of them. That one I may have to redo because he doesn't look that great now that I'm looking at him. All right. Yeah, I think we might call it for the night. Probably be back on tomorrow. Same time, same place. You guys, if you haven't already, be sure to follow Paranormally Correct here on TikTok. Turn on post notifications so that you get notified when I go live. I do these streams several times a week, Sunday, Monday, and usually Tuesday. What time? I usually start about 11. Sometimes give or take 20 or 30 minutes. But I'm going to try this week to start a little bit earlier because I know there's a lot of people like on Eastern time zone that don't get to tune in for quite as long as, you know, like if I go live late, they don't get to hang out with us for too long. So I'm trying to get a little bit earlier every evening, but somewhere around 11. But yeah, thank you all so much for coming tonight. Really appreciate it. Lots of fun, very exciting, lots of good stories. Thank you all for sharing your stories. That's always appreciated. And yeah, I will see you later. Everybody have a good rest of your week. Don't get abducted by aliens and don't get eaten by a dog man. And I will see you all later.